Good afternoon, dear students. Today I want to share with you a guide about basic verb tenses that you have seen in modules A and B. Today we're going to contrast the present simple versus present continuous, and then we're going to contrast the present perfect simple, the past simple, and the past continuous. You will find here examples, some simple explanations, and then you will find some links to do further practice. Okay, let's start. The objective of this guide is to contrast and review the basic verb tenses studied in modules A and B of the electronic book of Pearson. The only material you will need is this guide and the links I will share with you at the end of this guide. The present simple is used to talk about routines, habits, permanent activities, and in the future for scheduled events. We will see some examples. For he, she, it, we use s, es, ies in the affirmative form. Remember that we add s to most verbs, es for the verbs which finish in s, sh, ch, x, and the verbs do and does, only for the third person. Here is an example in the affirmative form. For I, you, we, they, the verb get up doesn't change. We don't change the verbs, as I told you. I, you, we, they get up at 6 a.m. But for he, she, it, we add s in this case for this verb. He, she, it gets up at 7 a.m. Now we have another example with third person. Luis watches TV at night. As we saw in the previous slide, we add s to most verbs, es to the verbs that, like this one, that finishes in, has an ending in ch, sh, s, x, or o. And finally, we have the verbs that end in y, preceded by a consonant. In this case, the consonant D. We changed y by I and add es. Carl studies in France. And the example referring to the present simple to talk about future. For scheduled events, the conference begins in 10 minutes. The conference is a scheduled event, the same as a class, a flight. These activities that are that have a specific schedule, and of course the complement in future in 10 minutes. That makes it a future sentence, or a sentence referring to the future. Negative. For I, you, we, they, the auxiliary is don't in the negative form, as you already know, and the verb keeps the base form because the word that indicates the tense is the auxiliary. I, you, we, they don't surf the internet at 6 a.m. And for he, she, it, the auxiliary doesn't, and the verb in the base form. He, she, it doesn't surf the internet at 7 a.m. Okay, for questions, we begin with the auxiliary. Do I, we, you, they go to school at 6 a.m.? We answer these questions with yes or no. Does he, she, it go to school at 7 a.m.? The answers for this kind of questions would be yes, I do, no, I don't, yes, they do, no, they don't. Yes, he does, no, he doesn't. And for WH questions, we just include the WH question before the auxiliary, and that's it. Present continuous. The present continuous is used for ongoing actions. That means actions that are taking place at the moment, or temporary actions, actions which are exactly the opposite of permanent ones, and arranged events for the future. What are arranged events? Arranged events are activities that you have planned beforehand and imply a specific moment in the future that you will that you have planned to do them. Normally it includes a specific time, the place, and sometimes even the person you're going to do the activity with. Here we use the verb to be and the main verb plus ing. In the affirmative form, we have these examples. I'm reading a good book. The verb to be, I'm, am, the contraction, and ing after the main verb. He, she, it is, or he, she's playing baseball at the moment. Ing after the main verb and the verb to be for he, she, it. We, you, they are, in this case the contraction, traveling to Mexico next weekend. Negative form is just changing the verb to be negative form. I'm not reading a good book. We keep the ing. He, she, isn't playing tennis now. And we, you, they aren't traveling to Paris next week. We use the verb to be negative form, and that's it. For questions, we begin with the auxiliary as usual. Am I reading a good book? Is he, she, it playing tennis now? Are we, they traveling to Mexico next weekend? This sentence is different because next weekend is future. This is an arranged event. We are planning to travel next weekend. We probably have the time, we probably have the tickets, and we probably know who we are traveling with. So that is the difference. In the other case, the complements are complements that indicate the action is taking place at the moment. Time expressions used in the present simple and in the present continuous. For the present simple, every day, every week, every month, once, twice, 3 times, a day, a week, a month, on 4 days of the week, on Tuesdays, on weekends as well, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, but we don't say in the night, we say at night, at 7 p.m., at the weekend, etc. For the present continuous, at the moment, these days, because it's a temporary action, this week, this month, etc., or now. Now let's check the other 3 tenses. Let's begin with the present perfect simple. The present perfect simple has 2 different uses. The first one is actions or states at an indefinite time in the past. Actions or states that began in the past and continue up to the present. And we use as auxiliary verbs have and has, have for I, you, we, they, and has for the third person, he, she, it, plus the past participle of the main verb. In the affirmative form, I, you, we, they have won a lot of prizes. We have as the main verb, as the auxiliary, and won as the main verb. He, she, it has, that is the auxiliary that corresponds to third person. Lived, that is the past participle of an irregular verb. Remember, we have regular verbs that take ed for the past simple and the past participle, and irregular verbs which have a different conjugation. Contractions: we've worked in Colombia since 1998. He's been sick. The contractions: v, that is the contraction of have, and s, that is the contraction of has. Negative form is very simple. We just use the auxiliary verb negative. I, you, we, they haven't, and the past participle of the verb doesn't change. Won many prizes. He, she, it hasn't lived in this apartment for 10 years. We just change the auxiliary to the negative form. Now for questions, we begin as usual with the auxiliary. Have I, you, we, they seen this concert? Has he, she, it lived here for 10 years? What are the answers? Yes, I have. No, I haven't. Yes, they have. No, they haven't. Yes, she has. No, she hasn't. And for knowledge questions, we begin with the knowledge question, and afterwards we use the auxiliary verb. Past simple actions that happen at a definite time in the past. We add ed to the regular verbs in the affirmative form, but to the irregular ones, we don't use any specific form, just the conjugation that corresponds to the past simple. In the regular verbs, we add ed, but to the irregular ones, we have to learn them by heart. Affirmative form: they played the piano last weekend. Play is a regular verb, we add ed, but come is an irregular verb. Susan came to class this morning. We have to study and learn these verbs in past. For the negative form is different. You didn't arrive at 3 p.m. yesterday. We use the auxiliary did. Negative didn't, and the base form of the verb. That is the same thing we do in the present simple. We use the auxiliary and the base form of the verb. Susan didn't come to class this morning. The verb come is in infinitive or in the base form, and we have the auxiliary here. Now for questions, of course, we begin with the auxiliary. Did you arrive home at 3 p.m. yesterday? And did Susan come to class this morning? The verb arrive and come are in the base form. Past continuous or past progressive. There is a little difference between the past continuous and past progressive, but that's not something we're going to study now. Some authors use continuous or progressive to mention this tense. What is the use? Actions in progress before another action in the past, or two actions in progress developed simultaneously. Actions in progress at a specific time in the past. We use the past of the verb be, was or were, and the present participle, that is the verb plus ing. Let's see. In the affirmative, I was studying English when Kate left home. In this case, we have an action that was happening in the past when another action interrupted that action. The first one. Jim was sleeping while you were watching TV. There are two simultaneous actions. Two people were doing two actions at the same time. Jim was sleeping and you were watching TV. And finally, Paul was reading a book at 7:30 p.m. last night. This is an action that was taking place. Just was taking place. Was an ongoing action in the past. For the negative, just the verb to be in negative. I wasn't working when Ted called me. Jim wasn't sleeping while you were watching TV. We use the verb to be in past, negative, plus the other verb, plus ing. Questions, were they running? We begin with the auxiliary. Were they running when you saw them? Was Jim sleeping while you were watching TV? The same, we begin with the auxiliary and the verb plus ing. This is, of course, for questions. Expressions that we use and signal words using the present perfect simple and the past simple, and as well the past continuous. Here we have already, yet, and just for present perfect, for and since, expressions that we use in the present perfect as well. For the past simple we use last, in, and ago, last year, last month, last week, last night, in 1986, in June, in the summer. And we have to talk about actions that happened before, 5 days ago, 7 days ago, 10 years ago. And for the past continuous, we use while and as. Here we have some tasks. The first task, guys, is to click on the link, then check. That's the first task, to practice present continuous versus present simple. The second one is to practice past simple versus present perfect. You do the same. You first click on the link, do the exercise, and then check the answers. And we have a third task to practice the past simple versus past continuous or past progressive. You check after you have done the exercise. The last task is just in case you have doubts, you have questions, please write down a set of questions and ask your teacher during the next tutoring session. Guys, that's all. This is a guide I prepared for you. I hope this is useful, and we'll keep in touch. Don't forget that this guide will be in our email. You can open it, you can use it, and you can ask any questions during tutoring sessions. Thank you very much. Have a great week, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.